For the 37th time in program history, the Tennessee Lady Vols are Sweet 16 bound, not just the men, but the Lady Vols as well. And coming on to join the show to talk about Tennessee's 82-67 win over Ohio State late on a Sunday night is Caleb Jarrow from the Daily Times. Caleb, I know you're on your way back right now, so we're not going to fault you for the video, but hopefully we can hear you okay. Tennessee just ran away from Ohio State, and that was typical of what Kim Calwell wants to play, right? Suffocating defense, leading the turnovers, high-scoring offense, and in the end, the Buckeyes just couldn't hold a candle to the Lady Vols.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Caner, coming from you from standstill traffic in Jellicoe. But no, you're right. That game last night on Sunday night was kind of the epitome of what Kim Caldwell's system is. Tennessee didn't shoot percentage-wise as well as Texas did, but had more field goal attempts, pushed the pace, had over 70 possessions, turned Ohio State over, ran the press. So that was kind of the epitome of what Kim Caldwell wants to do. And what made it interesting is for the Buckeyes, that's what they do. So it's kind of surprising that they struggled as much as they did, but some of the players talked about having a chip on their shoulders and wanting to do their press better than Ohio State's press. And when you watch the game, that's kind of what happened. Obviously, in the third quarter, Tennessee had a 14-0 run. Ohio State countered with a 19-2 run. Then Tennessee went on an 8-0 run, and then Ohio State didn't take a lead again after that. So Tennessee battled back. It was a team that earlier in the season probably would have lost that game. Sure, Ohio State went on that run, but in March, when it's one and done, they locked in and got a win.
So, I mean, I have no idea. That's why I have people like you on to talk about it. But, I mean, Tennessee forced 23 turnovers, which is a ton. But more impressive, they got 37 points off those 23 forced turnovers. Those got to be close to a season high, right?
Well, for Ohio State, it's a season high turnovers. I think Tennessee probably, I don't know if it's a season high, but it's probably close. I know in the non-conference against some mid-major teams, they got a ton of turnovers and points off of them. But no, you're right, Canner. That was the difference in the game because you had players like Talasia Cooper, who had 7 steals yesterday to go with her tie for game high, 19 points, leading the press. It felt like whenever she wanted to, she could just pickpocket Ohio State and run and get a layup. So that was the difference in the game. And like I said, that's what Kim Caldwell wants to do. She wants to score off turnovers because that gets rid of some of the offensive issues this team has had. Because when you're getting steals like that and pushing the pace and scoring off turnovers, you don't have to worry about a half-court offense, which has caused Tennessee problems this season. So that was good to see. It was a season-high turnovers for Ohio State, only the second time this season they've had more than 20. If any Lady Vol fans are listening, you think back to the past couple of times Tennessee has played Ohio State, the tables were turned, and Tennessee was getting season-high turnovers against Ohio State's press when then Kelly Harper was leading the Lady Vols. But this past Sunday matchup was Kim Caldwell's system beating Ohio State's system. And I thought going in, I'll be honest, that Ohio State would be able to do it better because it's more veteran team. Their coach is more established. And I was wrong. Kim Caldwell came in, their press, forced turnovers against Ohio State, and they ran in transition and kept the pace high. And another thing, too, is it's not surprising, Kaner, to see Tennessee have success in a game like that because Kim Caldwell has always said she wants the game to be as fast as possible because she thinks it favors her team. So even when they were playing Ohio State, who also wants to play a high-paced game, she did not back down from that at all. And you saw Tennessee thrive and win in a hostile environment.
Yep, Tennessee certainly did that. 4 players scoring in double figures, 2 nearly getting to 20 points. Talasia Cooper, 19. You had Z Spearman, 17 off the bench. 10 points from Samara Spencer. Ruby Whitehorn added 14. Again, a production up and down the lineup. And, you know, if you're new to tuning into Lady Vols or you don't know much about Kim Caldwell's style of play, plays a lot of players scored, and this is what you signed up for. And it's really impressive, Caleb, because, again, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, maybe last week. It looked like Tennessee was running out of gas at the end of the regular season. You know, looked like Tennessee was running out of gas in the conference tournament, and you had an expected big win in the first round over South Florida, and then it was kind of like, all right, let's see what happens here. Round of 32 on the road, hostile environment against an established program, and Tennessee gets it done. We'll talk about what's coming up next, but again, this is just another more reason to look at Kim Caldwell's first season as a really good one here at Tennessee.
Yeah, I agree. And another thing, too, I forgot to mention, that was Ohio State's first home loss of the season. They were undefeated at home. So Tennessee went in on Ohio State's home court, played a system Ohio State likes to play, and was better at them, frankly. And I think you hit the nail on the head that this is a very promising step for Kim Caldwell in her first season, especially given the fact that, you know, last season with a very good roster as well, Tennessee floundered in the round of 32 at NC State, kind of same situation on the road as a 5 seed, or 6 seed maybe last year. But no, you hit the nail on the head right. And this team is playing their best basketball right now, which was a worry, Kaner, because they were, struggling at the end of the year. You think about that loss on the road to Kentucky. Was a win expected in Lexington? Probably not, but you didn't want to lose by 20 plus. Then you lose at home to Georgia, who is a bottom feeder in the SEC. Blow out A&M in the SEC tournament. You lose to Vanderbilt in the SEC tournament as well, who's also not a very, highly touted team in the SEC. So you combine all those things, and you were worried, would Kim Caldwell be proven correct that her team needed rest? And I think after the first quarter yesterday, I was worried. But then once the second quarter hit and third, you could tell that Tennessee really did need that rest and that they must have been gassed at the end of the season. And confidence is up high for this team right now, too, especially heading into the Sweet 16, which I'm sure we'll hit on.
Caleb, let me ask you this, man, and it can always go one of two ways when you make a coaching change. The returners, the new recruits, the transfers, they can rally around the new coach and exciting brand of basketball and put up a bunch of wins, or it could go south in terms of, man, you got to hit the reset completely. You've really got to rebuild and all that. And I'm not saying Tennessee's not rebuilding, because Tennessee certainly has some things to do in order to get the roster where Kim Caldwell wants it and her style of play and everything. But this has been a good year, as noted, with a lot of players that were here last year and some key additions. How quickly earlier in the year did this team kind of gel together? At what point did you sit here and say, okay, this team could probably win a couple of games in the tournament and see what happens?
Yeah, I think for this team, Kim kind of preached it all year that her past teams and this team as well, those non-con games wouldn't be pretty. Obviously, they'd get wins, but they wouldn't be pretty and it wouldn't look like the end result. I think kind of what Kim said and a lot of players said as well, is they figured out the team could make a Sweet 16 run kind of the middle of SEC play when you were maybe not beating all of those great SEC teams, but really competing with them. You also got to win over UConn in that mix. And I feel like I kind of fall somewhere in there because it was really hard to judge this team in the non-con because they played some horrific competition. You think about NC Central, who they blew out. It's just some of these teams that are not good basketball teams, not in the season well. They ended up beating Iowa and Brooklyn. That was kind of their first test. Beat Florida State as well. She didn't know what Florida State was at the time. So I think once they got in the middle of SEC play, you kind of really tell once they got on the road, also got at home and played equal caliber talent, and their system started to kind of wear on teams. You could tell that the system was there, and also some of the transfers she brought in, along with players that were here already, kind of gelled perfectly to make this run. And then I kind of backed off that at the end of the year because I didn't know what they would look like entering March, coming off that stretch. But I think she's done a very, very good job with this team. It has been a little bit of a rebuild. I think you'll see more just looking ahead next year. I feel like we'll feel more like a rebuild year because she'll have a much younger team. But I think right now she's won instantly, and I mean it follows her track record. She's won everywhere she's gone.
Yeah, she definitely has. Tennessee, even some of those losses that you had in SEC play, boy, they were heartbreakers. I mean, there was a couple of like 2-3 games in a row where you're coming up a possession short or whatever. The Tennessee team has played hard, and they've won their fair share of big games, of course, most recently in the round of 32 at Ohio State. So now Tennessee advances on again to the 37th Sweet 16 for the program and the tournament's 43-year run. This is the 43rd year of the women's tournament. Tennessee is going to the Sweet 16 for the 37th time, and at the time of this recording, Texas and Illinois are not done, but Texas has a big lead. We assume it's going to be Texas. One of those losses that Tennessee came up just short, albeit it was the loss where Kim Caldwell it's the game where Kim Caldwell missed because she had her baby boy Cooper. What to expect? Tennessee and Texas, round 2 in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I think it's two teams who are still, going to go neck and neck. Texas is a really good basketball team, won a share of the SEC Conference Championship in the regular season. Obviously lost in the coin flip to be the 2 seed. But on a neutral site, I'm curious to see how Tennessee plays, especially with how well they have been playing. And I think just as anybody who listens to this, and as well, Kaner, all that matters this time of year is really what momentum you have, how good are you playing right now. And I think Tennessee is playing their best basketball probably of the season right now, and they're very confident and flowing. And when you look at Texas, they really haven't played, high comp recently besides the SEC tournament when they lose to South Carolina in the championship. So I'm curious to see what happens on a neutral floor because you brought it up. When they played in Austin, it was a very close game, except Kim was not there. She was having her baby, and they had an interim coach, and it was on the road in Austin. So Matthew McConaughey was in attendance. Maybe there's some star power there on the sideline that he was given the Longhorns. But I'm curious to see what happens on the neutral floor. I think Tennessee going into that game, I would probably lean Texas. But I think if Tennessee can do what they did to Ohio State to Texas on a neutral site and play that brand of basketball, they can really beat any team right now because the whole point is even if they have a bad shooting night, they're going to take so many shots that it doesn't matter. And I think if that is working, no matter what happens to Tennessee's offense or defense inside, the Birmingham Squadrons arena in Alabama, then I think they could come out on top. But that'll be a good game, and Texas surely under Vic Schaefer will not be looking to drop any March Madness games.
Tennessee and Texas coming up on Saturday. It's going to be either 1 or 3:30. Don't have an exact time at the time of this recording. Maybe so by the time it gets out there. It's going to be in Legacy Arena in Birmingham in the round or the Sweet 16. So looking forward to that. Caleb Jarrow of the Daily Times. Great stuff. Great coverage this weekend. You did men's, you did women's. A lot of miles on the car. I can tell you're not driving right now. That's a good call for you. But good job this weekend, and we'll talk to you again.
Awesome. Appreciate it.